Hello, everyone. You hear me good? Okay. Pleasure to be here. Let's start with a quick risk assessment from my side. Anyone that is not working directly with Agile? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Better? No? Hello, hello, hello. Oh, I will try to speak a bit louder. Okay. So not so many people. Directly Agile, pure Agile, and it's working. How many hands up? Not so many as well, which is kind of interesting. I thought the contrast would be bigger. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how I got here, because this will explain a little bit of why this presentation is meaningful. So, I started my studies in electrical engineering in Brazil. After that, I was working in the telecom industry for around 5.5 years. And that was as a system tester and requirements gathering. Requirements gathering as in the first stages of waterfall, pretty much, yes. Later on, while I was in that company, I took this project management MBA. I didn't work as a project manager over there. I was, as I said, a tester and writing requirements. Later on, I decided to move to Poland. I found a really lovely girl here from Poland, fell in love, and that's how I got here. I eventually ended up as a Scrum Master in Motorola Solutions. After some time, there were I had the 3 teams. I was a Scrum Master and a team manager at the same time. Yes, there are contradictions there. And the department that I used to work, it needed to do from time to time some hardware refreshment projects, and I was taking the lead on some of them. These gave me, let's say, department visibility and helped me to get to know different areas of this department, which was very positive. Then there was one opportunity. The previous department project manager decided to leave the company. It is even possible that he might be watching us right now. If yes, hi. And then I said, okay, I would like to take the role as a project manager. Would it be okay? And the company said, yes, you can give it a try. Since you don't have experience, there is a little bit of risky for you, but considering that you have knowledge of the department, you know the people, you know how we operate generally, this can be a good thing for us overall. So since then, I'm the project manager. I'm a project manager in RFSite, which is one of the departments in Motorola. What I would like to say here is that I have both the experience as a Scrum Master and a project manager, and these are a bit of 2 different worlds, and they can clash, but they can also coexist somewhat peacefully. So why this presentation? So I have the perception that one size fits all does not really work, yeah? So Agile makes sense, yes, sometimes. On the other hand, traditional also makes sense, once again, sometimes. So I have come to realize that the different levels of the organizations, they have different needs. They use different tools. They have different ways of working. They operate in a different way. And in short, it is needed to different aspects of management are covered in these 2 different levels. So for us to have a better understanding of the organization, if we have that better understanding of the organization, what will happen? We'll have better leverage points to try to change organizational areas, to try to change some critical problematic areas that we see, and we will be able to propose better solutions for the organization. And this is really valuable. So For this particular talk, who would benefit from it, in my opinion? I believe that people that have interactions overall with project management, project development, and or are questioning why some things work the way that they do in the organization. Okay, a little bit of a disclaimer. We're talking here, we are going to talk about Agile versus project management. I'm going to build a little bit of a Scrum Master versus project manager role. And I'm just doing this because that used to be the hat that I was wearing, yeah, the Scrum Master hat. I'm not saying that the other aspects of Agile roles are out. I'm just saying that this is my perspective. This is what I can present to you today. So, a bit of a role, general description of a Scrum Master role. Closely works with the teams. It helps the teams to build self-sufficiency, learn about Scrum Masters practices, Scrum practices, helps the team to improve, and the Scrum Master also helps the team to monitor the sprint goals, the objectives that are really critical for the team, that are really important. Metrics, as we have seen before in this presentation, creating and reviewing metrics, like gathering the proper indicators, yeah, this is really important. And metrics, they can end up driving behaviors, and if we have the wrong metrics, we will end up in bad places. As a project manager, on the other side, well, in my view, this role works a little bit more far away from the team and closer to let's say the people managers, the architects, and a different set of stakeholders. What does the project manager do? Builds alignment, documents agreements, and works on plans. Yes, creating plans, adapting plans, reviewing plans. Once again, we have metrics. And this is starting to show something. Yeah? We also have the project status. Yeah, the project manager is a role that needs to present and convey this message of where are we in terms of different facets of the project, like risks, dependencies, costs. Okay, we're going a little bit now to the main project phases. In the project management world, the projects are usually divided in 5 big groups: initiation, planning, execution, and monitoring. I gather him together for a reason, but they are 2 separate phases, and closure. So let's imagine one project A that is in the middle, yeah, and we have that project in execution and monitoring phase. After some time, what will happen? This project A will end up and get to closure phase. What will happen earlier is that there is another project, project B, that is starting up and getting to the planning phase. Well, this looks a little bit like waves, yes, project waves. One wave of a project is getting to the shore, another wave of the future project, next release, it's coming soon. I can see similarities between those waves and the Scrum cycles that we have, the iterations that we have, yeah? So in the beginning, we have the planning phase, then we get to that execution and monitoring phase, then we do the closure of the sprint with the retrospective, lessons learned. So there are similarities in those. Another similarities between the roles that we have is that both of these are both the role of a Scrum Master and the role of the project manager, they are incredibly people-intensive. Yes, in different ways, but they are people-intensive roles. It's all about communication, yeah, making sure that communication is in place, transparency, and people are understanding each other in the team level, in the project level. Another thing that I believe that is quite common is the idea of protection. Yeah, the Scrum Master during the sprint can help the team to protect the team from the incredible amount of interruptions that can happen. Let's have a throw in here. Can you start working on this prototype? So no, let's work on the sprint plan, let's plan this for the next sprint. The project manager, on the other hand, has the same role, yeah, of protection, but in the level of a project. It needs to make sure that the resources are protected, that the change requests that are being added are somewhat controlled and processed in a regular way. So protection is another aspect that is common. And no surprises. This means predictability is a good thing for both projects and Scrum iterations. In the terms of skill set, there are also many similarities. So communication as a base one, yeah? Laying out plans, adapting plans, and then what we do when we set a plan, well, we adapt it again because plans keep changing, and then we adapt them again. Once again, documenting agreements, this is a common thing that we have to have both in the PM world and the Agile world, and getting the proper indicators in place. This is something that is really valuable, and it is still a working item for myself. Some big problems come up from time to time. We need to make sure that we have the proper attitude to that and can deal with it in a regular, calm way, because it will bring better results overall. In terms of tools, I believe you will be familiar with a couple of icons that we have here. For example, we have Jira, Sheets, Excel, PowerPoint. Like a project manager without PowerPoint is not really a project manager. Over here we have a Gantt chart, yeah, using Gantt chart, and also dashboards. Yeah. So both of these roles, they have this similar, let's say, tool set that is really common and really well used in both of them. In terms of differences, well, the timeframes are one thing that comes to my mind at first. If we think about one iteration, one sprint iteration can lead from, let's say, a week to 4 weeks. Yeah? A project can lead anything from, I don't know, a couple of months until a couple of years. And this gets tricky. So imagine that we have a project that is running more agile and a change comes up, yeah? So imagine that we have like a big project, a big number of teams. Imagine that we have to ask like 10 Scrum Masters for, okay, when are you going to finish? When is the forecast of that? Imagine that a change comes up and we have to identify the impact on these several teams. This will eventually happen in the company, yeah, and in the project. So what's the impact of that? Getting this from multiple sources, it's really time-consuming, tricky, and our, let's say, the leadership likes to have a single point of contact for projects. And this is one of the big differences that I perceive between these two worlds. So the scene, our leadership has a problem that they need to solve. Yeah, one of them is like, they need to find the best allocation of resources possible to fulfill the better strategic and organizational goals. Nothing is for free. We need to make sure that we're using our resources in the best way possible, best ROI. How to get that done, yeah? We have really long or very long-term plan visibility in the project world. Sometimes when we go to closer to the engineering, these plans are more closer to one sprint, a couple of sprints. It's not that long visibility. And the people, yeah, that are impacted, the scope on the project world, it can be much broader than the scope of a single team or a couple of teams. The impact can lead, we might need to have interactions with several departments or even or even people in the production lines, certification lines, sales, marketing. We can consider them as part of a team in a broader sense, but they are not directly a Scrum team that will have constant load along the way. And I would like to point out that it's not the case that, maybe Gustavo is talking about DevOps, DevSecOps. No, I'm talking about something that's way broader than that. So usually, this is the picture that we usually see. Yeah, this pull, this tension between, okay, we want to go agile way, and another, let's go waterfall, let's go full plans, and I don't see this exactly like this anymore. I see that there is a possibility of compatibility between these two worlds. This is what I'm going to propose right now. I see that they are not really trying to solve exactly the same problem. Yeah? They are simply two different perspectives. There is a reason that part of those problems are getting handled in a more traditional way, and part of it is handled in a more agile way. Why is this? Agile does not seem to give the high-level answers, the quick answers, as Nicholas was presenting before, yeah, that our leadership might need. Yeah, for example, a sharp date. We are requested for that quite regularly as project managers, and well, I even though I like that idea of okay, present a range, present a uncertainty, a risk on that together. These are two numbers that need to go instead of one, and this brings conversation and brings ideas for sure, but high level commitment, they are needed from our leadership. On the other hand, if we try to lock off a plan on the engineering level, well, this will become trouble. Because as we know, when we start doing the job on the engineering level, the Scrum teams will really uncover a lot of things that really cannot be planned with months in advance, or even sometimes weeks in advance. Yeah, when we start to do the work, we find out stuff and we need to react quite quickly. Can we do a mix and match of both of them? Well, I think so. So in the business level, I believe that it can use more traditional project management techniques. So trying to answer this question, when are we going to get done? Yeah, when the work is going to be completed? How much is it going to cost? Can we add more teams to speed this up? It's often that we ask this question, that we are asked this question, okay, can you deliver this earlier? Sometimes the answer might be, if you give me more resources, yes, we can do that. It might be the case, on the other hand, that it's a super specific skilled task that we have a single point of contact of execution and implementation. And if that person doesn't do it, it will take a long time for that person to work with another person, ramp that person up. So it will take longer time if you put more people. So it might not make sense. This can be discussed. And in the project level, business level, we lock the project plan and then adapt to changes. On the other side, on the engineering level, we can and should be more agile. We have those retrospectives looking at how we can improve, how we can get better. And what happened here? Technical difficulties on. Water time.
Could you say more about how we can help the business see that those changes need to be brought in, or this needs to start things?
Let's take questions after, because it will break the flow a little bit. The presentation is not finished. Mm-hmm.
The question is not about the question is about did you plug in the code?
Okay. If I understood your question correctly, was it about how can we close the loop with the leadership when changes happen? Yeah. So I understand that the project is already committed. Yeah, because it will be, I will talk a little bit about that.
We can imagine it if you tell us.
It will, yeah. Imagine that someone had an idea, they had this feature request, then this high level, this feature gets like a high level estimation, then once this estimation is known, a feedback will be given to business. Based on that, it will be prioritized. Then it comes the time, okay, we really need you to start working on that, so it gets committed, then implementation phase goes, and then once that is done, release it. This is on business. Let's break down those two commit and implementation phase. In that moment of commitment, that item might get to the engineering backlog, assigned already with a priority. Once that is done, we get to the implementation phase. What is this phase? Okay, we're going to get the scope broken down into N items, and we'll get really to the basic flow of agile iterations that you are familiar with. And then break scope, low-level estimation, multiple teams are going to work this, and the scope will get done. And when all the scope gets done, well, the release is ready to be shipped. So this, coming back, so this is one of the ways that we can use a more waterfall approach in one level and a more agile approach closer to the engineering teams. So imagine that all the software is ready. So are we done? Can we ship? Well, not necessarily. In the case that I'm talking about, this software might be needed to be fully tested in hardware in the factory. So the Scrum teams don't have access to those setups. Imagine that we have people that go to the field to install the equipment and configure for our customers. They need to be trained because this is a new product and they are not aware of how these things work. Marketing materials need to be ready. Well, Scrum teams don't necessarily prepare and present marketing materials. Our sales teams, they were familiar with the previous way of operating of the previous product, but now we're replacing that with a new product. They need to be familiar with that. They need to know how that new product works and how the differences are selling points. They need to be able to communicate to the customer the differences, and they need to feel comfortable in passing that message. We might have a case that one of the product is getting too hard to be produced, and we need to think about the obsolescence of that product while introducing the new one. A final point is like hardware certifications for different regions. It's usually not something that we think about every day when we think about Scrum iterations, but we have cases of different hardwares that need to be sold in different countries or even continents, that they require some special certifications. And this is the example that I'm talking about. This was a massive project that Motorola released last year, which is the D-Series multi-carrier radio site. It is, we had like a massive number of teams working, and all of those items, they happened for this particular release. So, getting to the conclusion of this talk, can Agile and traditional PM be compatible? Yes, I really do believe so, and there are good reasons for this to coexist peacefully. The different layers of the organization, as we have seen, they work differently and they have different needs. Our role might be at times like to facilitate the communication between these layers and between these different groups. So in my perspective, what are we talking about? We're talking about tools. Yes, we are people that have skill sets, so we need to simply expand our toolbox. Adam Savage is really well known for the work that he has done with the Mythbusters, and he's known for his creativity, playing with crazy solutions, prototyping ultra quickly. Well, it looks a lot like the Agile methodology. So practices from other disciplines, from let's say more waterfall, from more traditional methods, they might influence the work that we can do using Agile. And if we work differently, we can pick some things that are meaningful and useful, and we can use it to our advantage. So eventually, different outcomes will happen. Not all of them will be good, but it's all about experimentation culture. And finally, once you have the tool set, you really need to use them. Every tool is a hammer. Once again, getting back to Adam, he mentions that imagine that you have a nail to hammer, and you don't have a hammer on your hand. So you might use a screwdriver that is close to you and just like smash that nail in with the screwdriver. It's not exactly the perfect tool for that, but if you don't have it, you will end up using it. So that's why every tool is a hammer. Try to use the tools properly for the things that they were made for. And I'll leave you with this sentence, like plans are nothing, planning is everything, from Eisenhower. So, did anything catch your attention?
I think we have time for at least one question. Anything from the audience you would like to ask Gustavo? If not, there will be a coffee break, don't worry.
So trying to address the question that you asked, I believe it would be, it depends on the size of the change. There are some changes that will be absorbed on the engineering level. If it gets too big, it might be the case that, okay, you need to communicate that higher. And what are you asking for? Are you asking for more people, more time? What is the problem? It's really case by case. We really need to have the channel to talk and the understanding that the senior that our leadership might need to is that, okay, we can absorb some noise, but more than a certain level, we'll have to intervene. Yeah? Not sure if I went to the direction that you were asking for.
Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much, Gustavo.
Thank you.